This video extends the lesson, Day 10, Stockholm, Personal Data Portability, and contains an in-depth comment of the Article 20 of the GDPR. Please, find in the description below references for the course. Article 20 provides for a general right to data portability, which may be decomposed into two separate rights, a right to receive one's personal data in a structured, commonly used and machine-readable format, and 2, a right to transmit the received data without interference. Portability can be invoked if the following conditions are respected. 1. Data has been collected based on consent, Article 6, 1a, or 9, 2a, or on a contract, Article 6, 1b, and 2. They were processed by automated means, which excludes most paper files. Guidelines on the right to data portability. What is the data concerned by the portability right? Article 20 says it is the data provided by a person. The guidelines on the right to data portability specifies that this word must be interpreted broadly. It recommends that data derived from users' activities, logs, browsing history, search activities, location, and so on, should be treated as data provided by a user. Therefore, the right covers not only the data actively and directly volunteered by users but also those generated by their activity while using the application, device or service in question. The official interpretation extends the reach of the right to data portability beyond the text of the article itself and the legislative intent of the Council and the Parliament, some critics say. Data concerned by the provision are only personal data, within the meaning of Article 4, 1, which excludes anonymous data and data that are not related to a user. Guidelines on the right to data portability. It should also be emphasized that the right to data portability must be regarded in the General Data Protection Regulation context. It concerns personal data, and not data in general. A playlist from a streaming service, for example, contains the listening preferences of a user and is thus included in the scope of the right, but the songs themselves are not. The right to data portability cannot, as a rule, affect other people's rights, Recital 68. The guarantee aims at avoiding the processing of third parties' personal data without a legal basis while allowing a person to exercise her/his right to data portability. However, there are limits to this exception. If, for example, a person requests his/her calling data, the data might include third parties' information related to incoming and outgoing calls, like phone numbers. These data should be considered for the portability right as they also concern the person who requests the data. Guidelines on the right to data portability. One can argue that the transfer does not affect third parties' rights more than the initial processing. Explaining this limits existence to safeguard others' rights and freedoms. Article 20 prescribes that data should be communicated in a structured, commonly used and machine-readable format, but falls short of defining precisely the outline of these requirements. A machine-readable format is specified in a European directive as a format that is structured in such a way that software applications can easily identify, recognize and extract specific data from it. Directive 2013/37 EU. Structured could refer to an obligation to organize the information in such a way that it can be easily accessible to users. They should not have to dig into the document or file provided to find the expected data. Information should be classified or categorized systematically in an understandable manner, and they should be offered in a format which supports reuse. Guidelines on the right to data portability. The expression commonly used, read in conjunction with Recital 68, seems to refer to the concept of interoperability. Indeed, Recital 68 completes the article's text, adding a requirement that data should be made available in an interoperable format. It states that controllers should be encouraged to develop interoperable formats that enable data portability, but it does not go as far as requesting that controllers adopt or maintain technically compatible processing systems. Even if it was adopted as one of the 8 rights guaranteed by the GDPR, the right to data portability might be looked at first and foremost as a regulatory tool to stimulate competition and innovation in the European internal market. It may be potentially thought of as an economic incentive to promote the free flow of information and competitiveness between service providers. The right to transmit received data to another controller depends almost solely on innovation. Could the requirement of transferring data without hindrance be read as an obligation to develop such systems? The guidelines on the right to data portability specify that hindrance comprehends legal, technical or financial obstacles if they refrain or slow down access, transmission or reuse of data. The guidelines go as far as classifying the lack of interoperability as an example of such hindrance. It should be mentioned though that Article 20 poses one condition to the exercise of the right to transfer data: it must be technically feasible. Data portability poses a challenge to information technology companies as they are generally not ready technically to answer such a demand. The technology giant companies partnered to develop new standards to make it technically possible to transfer data from one service to another, Data Transfer Project. However, it is still in the process of being elaborated. The European Union granted a right to push innovation but cannot be fully respected in the Act's present state. Technical developments are still in their infancy, and it seems almost premature to label data portability as a right.